to the conference finals for the second straight year. James with the face-up.
Like any other sport, basketball also has new dogs taking over from the old ones. That's always been the case because our heroes grow old and would have to pass the torch to the next generation. But if you look at today's NBA, there's only been one true legend killer who's been beating every single superstar from the last generation, and that's Anthony Edwards. Ant has always had that dog in him. He's not afraid to speak his mind and has always had a chip on his shoulder. When he's on the court, he doesn't back down from a challenge, even going as far as proclaiming last season that he was going to be guarding Kyrie Irving in the conference finals. That's the kind of mentality you need from a franchise superstar. But he's not just all talk. Ant-Man has proven that he could actually take on some of the best players in the league and walk out of their skirmish as a winner. You see, we've seen this time and time again. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar took over from Wilt Chamberlain. Magic Johnson and Larry Bird took over from Dr. J, and Michael Jordan took over from Magic and Bird. So it's not a surprise that the biggest stars in today's NBA are eventually going to realize that the next generation is coming for them. After all, LeBron James, Stephen Curry, and Kevin Durant took over from the Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett era. Naturally, someone's eventually going to come after them. Still, it's impressive how these guys have been balling every season like they're 10 years younger. They are still some of the best superstars in the league, even if they're in grandpa territory.
Green by green, the switch to Lively. Curry.
LeBron is 40, while Steph and KD are nearing that number already. You don't find many superstars playing at elite levels at that age. But Father Time stays undefeated, and it seems like he contracted one superstar to take those guys out instead of giving the job to an entire generation of stars. That's why Anthony Edwards is perhaps this generation's legend killer. No, he doesn't RKO people out of nowhere, but there's a good reason why he's been the bane of the existence of every legend in the league today. Guys like LeBron, Curry, KD, and several other older stars have seen people gunning for their crowns. James had to go up against younger versions of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, but ended up beating them in the playoffs every single time they faced each other. Meanwhile, Curry has beaten Luka Doncic, Ja Morant, among others in the playoffs. Of course, we know that other stars have beaten those legends in the playoffs before, but the difference between them and Edwards is that Ant-Man has beaten all the best players of the previous era convincingly during the playoffs. That's not an easy thing to do, especially when you look at the resumes of James, Curry, and Durant. Those guys have faced and beaten some of the best, but they all fell to Ant-Man in the postseason. It all started in 2024 when the Minnesota Timberwolves faced the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the playoffs. The Suns had KD, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. They basically had more firepower than a defense-oriented Wolves team. And at that time, both Durant and Booker were considered better than Edwards. But that didn't matter to Ant. He took on the challenge of facing Durant, even publicly admitting that he grew up watching and idolizing KD. But unlike other people who faced their idols, he wasn't starstruck in that matchup. Instead, he faced KD head-on, talking trash to him a lot of times on his way to averaging 31 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists in that series.
O'Neal draws the assignment on Edwards. The jumper goes!
The Wolves beat the Suns in 4 games, and the only time Ant didn't score 30 or more was in Game 2. That was when the league realized this youngster was coming for everyone, even beating 3-time MVP Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets in the second round in 2024. They fell short against Luka and the Mavs in the West Finals, but the 2024 playoffs were Ant-Man's coming out party. One legend down, several more to go. Of course, Edwards didn't stop coming at the rest of the league, improving into a better superstar during the 2024-25 season. And no one thought he secretly used the 2024 Olympics for his takeover. You see, the 2024 Paris Olympic team was marketed as a last hurrah for LeBron, Steph, and KD, as this was the only time those 3 megastars teamed up to win a championship on the same team. It was also the last, because they weren't getting any younger. But while the world focused more on that trio, Ant was biding his time as probably the 4th best superstar on that Olympic team.
Gets the turnover, Durant puts it up for Edwards!
He not only teamed up with the megastar trio, but also used the Olympics as an opportunity to learn from greatness. Ant saw just how tirelessly that previous generation of superstars worked, and that was why he decided to work just as hard and learn a few tips and tricks from them to become better. But things didn't look too well for the Wolves entering the 2025 playoffs. In 2024, they were the 3rd seed, 1 win away from tying the 1st seed in the West. But several roster changes and injuries changed things for the Wolves, dropping them down to the 6th seed, narrowly missing the play-in tournament by a win. So, coming into their first-round matchup against a much-improved Los Angeles Lakers team that had both LeBron James and Luka Doncic, no one thought the Wolves were going to win this series. After all, they were the lower-seeded team and were up against a team that had arguably the greatest player of all time and a superstar who could be the next generational GOAT. But Ant-Man didn't care at all. GOAT or not, LeBron wasn't too much of a problem for him and the Wolves. Minnesota defeated LA in just 5 games, thoroughly outclassing them in several of those games.
Snaps that thing above the rim. There's no reason why he can't do that.
Oh, beautiful crossover. 3-ball!
Edwards averaged 26.8 points, 8.4 rebounds, and 6.2 assists all series long, outplaying James, who averaged 25.4 points, 9 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. Ant even finished Game 4 with a 43-point masterclass to prove he was good enough to hang with the elites. After the series, Edwards admitted that beating the Lakers meant a lot because they defeated the best player ever, which says a lot about how he admired LeBron and his greatness. Now, he had KD and LeBron under his belt, and it was only fitting that the Wolves met the Golden State Warriors in the 2nd round. This was his opportunity to put away the Olympic megastar trio to prove that he was the next face of the NBA. But things weren't very fortunate for him and Stephen Curry in that series. The Wolves couldn't do anything against the Warriors' top-rated defense in Game 1, leading to a loss. But the biggest story there was Steph's hamstring injury. He left the game early in the first half, changing the entire complexion of the series. While the Warriors still played elite defense on the Wolves, they had no weapons against an equally elite defensive team. Curry was the Warriors' entire offensive system, and without him, they looked like G-Leaguers struggling to buy baskets. Minnesota won the series in 5 games, winning 4 straight after dropping Game 1. And Ant-Man averaged 26 points, 7.6 rebounds, and 5.6 assists to lead everyone in scoring the entire series.
Weak side. It's created now 2 opportunities. Oh my goodness! Anthony Edwards scrapes the sky and flushes it.
So, by beating the Warriors in the 2nd round of 2025, Ant-Man had officially become the league's version of a legend killer because he defeated KD, LeBron, and Steph in the playoffs in the last 2 seasons. No one in recent memory had done what he did. Of course, there are still people who may try to belittle what he did against the Warriors for the sole purpose that Curry wasn't even healthy in that series. You could even make the argument that the series would have been very different had Steph been available the entire time. Ant and the Wolves may not have beaten the Warriors with Curry at 100%. But then again, injuries are part of the game. In an old-timer like Curry's case, injuries are always going to be very common. In short, Father Time basically told him to sit this series out. And, as the saying goes, availability is the best ability. So, if Curry didn't have the ability to stay healthy and available against the Wolves, while Ant-Man was healthy and available in that series, the victory goes to Edwards. Knowing Ant-Man, he would have loved to take it on a completely healthy Golden State team. He's competitive enough to want to beat the best when they're at their best, and a part of him must be eating him that he wasn't able to not only beat a healthy Curry, but also outplay him, just like how he outplayed both KD and LeBron. But Ant still gave Curry his flowers, saying that he wanted him to be out there on the court because he wanted to play against the greatest shooter of all time. And he also told everyone that he learned from Steph to never stop shooting the ball. Essentially, even though he never actually defeated Curry in the playoffs, that doesn't take away from the fact that he is the legend killer. After all, he learned from the best and used whatever he learned from them to beat them. He learned Durant's scoring mindset, LeBron's all-around greatness, and Curry's outside shooting confidence. And while he's not at their level yet, Edwards is on his way to proving that he could be the headliner of the next generation of superstars, especially after beating the greatest players of the previous era.